Graham. I'm Brandan Reilly, and joining me in the studio live to talk all things football, Bianca Cucinotta. How are you, Bianca?
Fine, thanks. And yourself?
Very good. It's a fantastic morning here. It's beautiful outside. I'm really enjoying it. How's the weather been for you this week?
Oh, look, I guess I'm not a fan of the winter, I'm not going to lie. Probably not a good thing that I like a winter sport. But positive of John McEwen Reserve's indoor facilities now, as you can sit inside, stay nice, warm, dry, and watch the game.
Absolutely. Fantastic facilities you've got down there. We touched on it a couple of weeks ago. Michael and I come down to watch the game against Brighton, and just sitting in the stands was more than enough for me at that stage, but I'm sure now I'll be trying to venture inside. It'll be a bit fresh for me.
Definitely.
The Suns last weekend, Bianca, they had a win.
They did.
How did they go?
Look, they actually played really, really well. The teamwork was there again. Cody Selwood stand out. His goal, if anyone hasn't seen it on our Facebook page, get on there.
He looks like he just went for a lazy stroll past everyone.
He's one of those next level players. I think a lot of the time people see him and just don't expect him to have that in his locker. It was as if a lazy Saturday evening stroll. He just went for me. Cousin's sitting almost right behind the goals. I'm sure you would have seen his comment on Facebook there. He's got another angle of it. And he said it too on Snapchat, and I was sitting there going, is anyone just going to move? And he just went zip, zip, zip around everyone, just put it straight across the keeper in the back of the net. It was just like, do you want to grab that one for me, Keeps? Cheers.
I'm also told Billy Marshall's third goal for the night, that no one's got on tape. Apparently Win News had just packed up about a couple of minutes prior, and he pulls out a scream and puts it in the top right corner.
I've got goosebumps.
Is he still talking about it? Comments on Facebook suggest he's trying to downplay it, but from what I've been told, it's like goal of the century.
It is. That's pretty much 2 weeks in a row now that Billy's just pulled out an absolute screamer. It's one thing he's definitely known for, is just having an absolute great long-range kick on him. But he was probably just off from the corner, running down the wing. He's just pulled the ball up, looked up, he had no one around him.
I'll bugger it, I'll have a game myself.
Had a ping, and it was an absolute screamer.
Wow, that's what you want. Michael said it faded just back in, nicely into the corner. And he couldn't ask for a better goal, because he messaged me going off tap, this is one of the greatest goals I've ever seen. Yeah. And I go, someone got it on film, and then next thing you know, I spotted the Billy the Corey one.
Cody
one. Cody on Facebook, and I went, maybe this is the one he was talking about. And I went, no, it's the same one my cousin sent me. I thought, surely someone's got the video of it.
Actually, we watched that, we got up, we cheered, looked over, and Michael's gone, where's Win News?
Oh, no.
And they just left. And I was like, these poor blokes been there. He recorded the whole game except maybe the last 15 minutes. And, of course, that's
always when the action happens. A good cameraman should know to never stop rolling.
Oh, I'll tell you what, the intensity does definitely lift in the last 15 to 20.
Always. I reckon 90% of football matches, I'd go dead. I wouldn't call it dead, but quiet for that first sort of 75 minutes and that last 15 minutes. It does my head in watching it every week, because when we played soccer as kids, you were always told to just keep attacking from the very first minute. But these blokes they kick it into gear, conserve the energy, and just push hard. And you always scored. I reckon 2 to 3 goals late is always an opportunity in a game.
I think a lot of coaches get frustrated with that too, because they've got a game plan, and as long as the players stick to the game plan, that's fine. But at the same time, you need they want the intensity all the way through. And if you can play like that, and you can hit targets, and you can move that well in the last dying minutes of the game where you should be physically just done. Why aren't you doing it from the very start?
Because if you put that pressure on, this is my opinion, if you can put that pressure on from the start and that very first 15 minutes go hard early, then you can actually put a side back on the fence, and then they've got to change their tactics where you can start to open yours up a bit more. That's my opinion, and something I've always found very frustrating to watch. Down the A-League's a very good example of waiting for the last few minutes. The A-League Grand Final ended up the same. You get to about the 70th minute, and then it really opened up, I suppose,
Yeah, and I know last season, being in the change rooms a lot last season, the way that they would play it was to sit back in the first 20. It was to let the opposition have the ball, let them make a mistake, and then hit them on the break.
Yep.
Whereas this year, it's more about keeping possession, playing the ball, just holding on to it, wait until you see an opening, and then play. It's not about, like, and I hate long ball football. I hate it.
Because it goes nowhere.
When it's on, it's on. When it's like, and I also hate short ball. Like, it's 50-50. Sometimes, you know, the 5 metre pass isn't there, but your striker could be standing, you know, on the edge of the box, you know, so then it's on. But it really is about knowing when to play, and I think that's why we've tried to bring in some more mature footballers in, you know, Jordan Barrow, who's played overseas, Billy Marshall, who's played overseas, he's played NESL, he's played RPL, he's played Albury League, and same with Adam Gatcombe, Jamie England, Matt Elliott playing, and James Elliott playing in Alice Springs. So it's just about getting that diversity now, bringing it to grassroots, bringing it to a little countryside, I guess. It's in their opening 10 years of being a club, and getting them to play a style that is professional and works. Because one thing I think Australian football does a lot is they look at other countries, so whoever's in charge, I guess, at the time, and they try to copy their style of playing. But you look at Belgium. Belgium's been playing that style for years, and it's now that the kids that were playing it way back when have grown up, and they are the Courtois and they are the Hazards and all of that. They're now at that point where they've been playing that style for so long, it's how they play, and they're going to go really well in this World Cup. So that's...
The Belgians are always a quiet side that comes through the World Cup ranks, and no one ever talks about them, and then they always finish in the last sort of, you know, 12 to 8 sides, and no one ever writes about them. I always rate them as a real dark horse to one day just sneak through and take it.
That's
scary, isn't it?
Being of an Italian background, World Cup is a touchy subject for me at the moment.
Are we talking 2006, Bianca? The memories are still fresh, I think.
I still remember going to school the next day wearing my Italy top underneath my school uniform.
Very fresh here in Australia. Yeah. I don't think that one will ever disappear.
But so this year Italy hasn't made the grand final, the World Cup. Sorry.
How nice was that for Australia? I think there was a big cheer when we all realised they weren't coming.
And but yeah, definitely Belgium's who I'm backing. I can tell you that much.
I tell you, France. I'm really keen for our very first lineup against France, because that is going to really show where we are as a country. Look, I'm not the world's greatest fan of Timmy Cahill being selected for this upcoming World Cup side. I know he's the god of Australian football, but
you and I see eye to eye on that.
This has to change. You know, I personally think Tim's now past his prime, and it's time to be looking forward to someone more like the likes of Daniel Arzani who's been picked, and you want these younger kids coming through into the side. There's a fellow coming in from overseas that's never stepped a foot into this country. His father was a citizen and his grandfather was a citizen of the country, but they've also got citizenship overseas, so he's been playing football over there. Have you seen that one in the paper recently?
No, I haven't seen that one.
So that came up in the Herald Sun throughout this week or late last week, and I haven't had a chance to get on and have a chat with you. He's never stepped a foot in the country, but he's been selected for our national side. He didn't want to play under Ange Postecoglou, but he's quite happy to play under the new coach. So it'll be really interesting to see. I've never heard of the bloke, so I have to do a bit more research on that one later on. But yeah, no, look, World Cup, it's only a month away, I suppose, isn't it?
Well, and like you were saying before about those dying minutes of the game and how it can change around, I feel that's what Tim Cahill is probably good for, coming on in that last 15 minutes, fresh legs, and
he creates the opportunity. Don't get me wrong, he does create the opportunity, and that head of his is incredible to put one in the back of the net, but I don't think he's now the right option for this World Cup. But
the only other thing that I could think is that as he's played in England and he's played overseas, other clubs, other countries know the name, so he could potentially drag out a defender.
A couple of defenders away, yeah.
So, and that's I mean, in saying that as well, these are professionals, so they're going to watch Australia's games. They're going to see how they play, and they're going to learn from that and see what they do and who they do need to watch out for. But yeah, I don't really know what to expect from Australia, if I'm being totally honest. I mean, because the qualifiers, they played one style, they played with one certain team, they had a coach. That's all changed.
Because now we've got a brand new coach and we're starting effectively from zero.
Yeah.
I'm the same as you. These first two warm-up matches, which are only sort of 3 weeks prior to actually our first game, I'm really concerned that this is going to upset and change the way we've played over the last 3 to 4 years leading into this World Cup. So, I don't know. Don't get me wrong, very good coach, but
yeah,
we'll see what happens, I suppose.
My favourite Aussie coach is always going to be Gus, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, he's a legend, isn't he? Graham Arnold to take over next.
And I don't know.
I know, he comes from Sydney. I know that's sort of the enemy, but at the same time, to see what he's done with that side over the last 2 years.
But I think, like, to go from A-League to international team's a big jump.
Well, Postecoglou did it.
And I don't think it was a right move.
No, he had the right team in the A-League, and there was a big difference between coming out of Melbourne as a small club as such to being right front and centre from the national stage. So.
I just think you've got a lot more learning to do.
You sort of have to go over to probably the EPL, probably the main centre stage, and as an assistant and learn over there, and then come back and go, all right, well, this is actually huge.
I 100% agree with that, because you really need to learn. You can't go and think that being in a league that has a small league, let's be honest, there's not a lot of teams in the A-League, and then going international scale, working with players who are overseas 90% of the time and then come to play a few games.
Well, so if you look at our World Cup list at the moment, I think we've still got one more acting to go. But I reckon 90 to 95% of them actually play overseas, and half of this country would never hear about them because we're never talking about them. So I think we've only got 4 to 5 left from the A-League, I think, And
in saying that, I mean, people often say, like, Aussies aren't strong in football. This just...
It proves, I reckon, where we're at. Like, we've got...
just because you don't know
Matty Ryan's overseas, goalkeeper. Like, we're talking probably one of the best goalkeepers.
Definitely.
Lawrence Thomas, I thought, might have been a touch stiff not to get selected. Over the last, couple of months, his goalkeeping's been on point. But, I certainly can't wait for the World Cup. And you guys have got a function I saw... on Facebook, born up yesterday. Come and join the GV Suns family as we celebrate Australia's first match versus France, live from Russia on the big screen from 6:30pm, kick-off from 8pm. $25 entry includes a 2-course meal with drinks at bar prices. Tickets must be purchased prior and all families are welcome. Fantastic night down there at the GV Suns at the sporting complex just down the road here at McEwen Reserve.
Yeah, not only that, we also have a poker night coming up as well, which is on the 1st of June. So not next Friday, but the following
Friday.
It's 6:30, that one there. Now, everyone is arguing over who's going to win the first prize.
What's first prize?
Trip to Bali.
Oh, here we go. Second prize looks like there's a pool table and chip set on the line. Third prize is an Android tablet. And fourth is 2 gold class movie tickets. So it is... what a night.
Yeah, it's going to be a big one. $50 to play, and if $50 gets me a trip to Bali, I'm in.
Well, and you got $10 to $50 rebuys on the night, looking at this. So it depends, I suppose, when you go out, when you can come back in. So Craig, the helicopter Carly, is probably the best one to contact for that one. So that's
all contact details are on the Facebook page.
He'd love that.
He would love it.
Tell you what though, Bianca, the 20s are also ticking along just nicely, and they kick off at 1 o'clock today. You're taking on Moreland City down there at Brunswick, and I sound professional in that, but I had to ask you about 10 minutes ago before we started where Moreland City is.
Yeah. So, a lot of people all struggle with Moreland, but I'm sure when you're actually driving in Melbourne, you may or may not pay attention to some of the signs where it says, like Moreland's more like the the Shire kind of thing, and then you've got like your little towns that are in there as well. So that's the best way for me to explain it. So there's two Moreland sides. There's Moreland City and there's Moreland Zebras. Last year, Moreland Zebras were on our side of the fixture and City were on the west side. And something, I don't know why, but the league just always switched them around. So this year, City's on our side of the fixture and Zebras on the west side. And as I was saying to you earlier, we're very hesitant in going to City just because we've gone previously, and it's been when we got there that the pitch has been flooded. They have like 2 cricket pitches in with their pitch. It's a proper Sunday league pitch.
Proper, yeah. Real country tight.
So we're a bit wary about going and what we're walking into, but yeah.
I'd tell you what though, the 20s are kicking off at 1 o'clock, followed by the seniors at 3 o'clock.
Correct.
How are Moreland City going, and do you reckon both sides will come home with a win today?
Moreland City are very dangerous at the moment. They're top of the table on their side. They haven't lost a game in eight matches. So we're missing 3 key players this week. We do have Jamie England back in the side, although Matt Elliott, Greg Nash and Adam Gatcam, we're all missing this week as...
we're all missing because of a 1-match ban after receiving their 5th yellow card of the season.
Correct. So Michael did say to me, he goes, I've got to go up to Matt next week and ask him for the referee's phone number. He's copped enough of his business cards to know it by now. And I was like, oh, geez, Michael, what are you doing?
Jeez, don't make it any more tense at home for me, mate.
Nah, so Matt came back last week after injury and he's decided he wants to go back on holidays.
Just to have a week off.
That's it.
Well, it's interleague everywhere else this week across most other sports, and he's like, all my mates are going on holiday, I'll go join them. Other football news, Bianca, the FA Cup is on tonight.
Correct.
We've got Chelsea taking on Manchester United at about 2:15am our time.
Otherwise known as the Cucinotta household derby.
Oh, really?
Well, I'm a Chelsea supporter and my younger sister's a Manchester United supporter.
So she's got the brains in the house then?
No.
It's got to be Reds or nothing, mate.
No way.
I love the colour blue, everything else except with the Saints and Manchester United.
Nope. Everyone always had said to me, oh, you only go for Chelsea because they're a big team there. Years ago, when I was about 10, 12 years old, my dad was given 2 football kits. Tottenham one, which is his team, and Chelsea one. And I didn't pay attention to football back then. And he goes, oh, you can have this one. Ever since then, I was a Chelsea supporter.
Just took it on.
Just took it on.
That's the way to do it. It's a fantastic
Whereas
story.
my sister, she saw them at the top of the table and she was like, well, I'm a Manchester United supporter. And I was like, well, what?
Jumped on the bandwagon.
That's it.
I suppose I jumped on the bandwagon when I was in primary school. One of the fellows I went to school with, he actually won a competition online and actually got some of their assistant staff and a couple of the former players to actually come over and do a training camp down at Murchison. So they come out and went through the whole drills that some of the players go through and great information and signed a couple of shirts for us.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, it was such an awesome day, and ever since then, you sort of go, all right, they've been really good to us, so I started to pick it up that way, I suppose. They could have been terrible for all I would have known. I had no idea at that stage. They would have been like the rest of me sporting teams that I find never do any good.
Well, in saying that, what actually really surprises me about the FA Cup final is Jose Mourinho.
Well, it's going to be interesting, isn't it?
Well, he does not care about the FA Cup.
I don't think he's cared for the last couple of months, really, the way he's carried on.
That has been his philosophy at Chelsea. He cared about finishing on top of the table. He cared about Champions League. He did not care about FA Cup ever.
This is just a glorified muck-around tournament for him.
So to see how he reacts to this game, is it different because it's against Chelsea? I don't know.
Personally, I'll give you an honest tip, I reckon Chelsea will sneak up 2-0. I just don't think United have been good enough over the last couple of months to come through with the goods. That's my opinion.
I just think if they play anything like, if Chelsea play anything like what they did against Newcastle, we've got no hope. Chelsea were on holidays already, so that was, I've no idea. Like a 3-0 loss in the last game of the season, I have no idea what planet they were on. But if it was more like a let's not get injured, we've got FA Cup coming up, let's take it easy, win, lose, draw, it's not going to change where we sit, then that's, I can take that. But if they're on holidays already, then I'll be disappointed.
The bookies have got United just in front, but yeah, I don't know. I reckon Chelsea 2-0 tonight. Oh, look, I'll be up watching it. We're babysitting at home, I suppose, at the moment. Martin's got a young fellow around, so he'll learn some new tricks tonight. We'll stay up and then Mum can view it tomorrow.
That's it.
Poor bugger. So he's an absolute little champion, Jack, so I'll teach him some more soccer tonight. But look, I can't wait for it. I tell you what, just finally, I suppose, Bianca, in the A-League Grand Final, as you're aware, Roy O'Donovan in about the 92nd minute come in with probably one of the worst challenges in... I reckon nearly football history, I suppose, come in, studs up, kick Lawrence Thomas in the face. It certainly wasn't intentional to get him in the face, but that's just where it ended up. Lawrence Thomas copped a fair whack to the head.
What I don't understand when you look back on it and you see pictures and you see replays, to get your leg up like that.
Oh, fair effort.
Isn't it easier to take a step forward and head the ball?
Well, I would have thought so, but... I suppose it might be easier to get a deflection off the foot than with your head, especially to the right spot, but I don't know whether he's trying to drop it back onto his foot to drop it and bang, kick it in.
But at what point with his leg going up and connecting was he thinking, oh, I'm about to get in trouble for this? Because he'd have to know.
Oh, there's no thought, though. You're desperate by that stage, I suppose. Your grand final's pretty much over. It's already marred by controversy as it is. And they knew that at half time that the goal was offside. So you're sort of pushing for every last desperate attempt to stay in the game. But I don't know. He went to the tribunal yesterday and was found guilty of that incident, and he's received a 10-match suspension. And I personally think that's absolutely ridiculously way too much. Newcastle have come out straight away and are appealing the decision on Donovan's behalf. As
we spoke about as well, if he didn't hit him in the face, was it 10 matches?
No, the suspension would be a lot less. Personally, I think six covers it. So for those who are unaware, the 10 matches doesn't just cover the A-League season, that covers the FFA Cup games coming up. Leading into the season. So if Newcastle get on a roll and make the final, he's already chewed up probably 4 to 5 matches. There he misses only sort of 5, 6 matches at the start of the A-League season. If Newcastle somehow get knocked out in that first round, then he has to serve a 9-match suspension throughout the Hyundai A-League season. And that's 1/3 of the season gone for an incident that I certainly think it was ugly, don't get me wrong, but I don't think it deserves 10 matches.
You are from the opposition team.
Yeah. So that's coming from the opposition club. Look, we didn't pick it up live, that's what had happened sitting in the grandstand. We saw it, all our hearts sank. I've never heard such a quiet spell when you're about to win the league. Just go across going, oh my God, Thomas is coming out of his mind. What are you doing, mate? And the next thing you know, he's like nearly knocked out on the ground. There was this massive uproar, and it wasn't till 1 a.m. when we got back to our motel room, my cousin and I, that we actually got to look at it and go, wow, that's really ugly. But 10 matches?
Yeah, I mean...
I don't know. Doesn't sit well with me.
Yeah, it is harsh, but... We'll have to see what happens now, because you know as well as I do, when you go and appeal...
Well, it generally ends up worse, doesn't it?
So,
can it get worse?
Oh, I'm not too sure, but not only that, what holds in for his A-League future or his playing future?
Because he's not young either, and that's...
I mean, is he gonna... You'd hope he keeps up fitness well in those games that he misses, and comes in and at the point that is ready back to play, how do you know, like, that's 10 games that they've had to have another person, hopefully some young kid coming through.
And knocked out his spot, probably, and then he's knackered.
And what do you do then? So not only is it a harsh penalty, but it could be a career-ending penalty.
Yeah, that's right. It's tough because if you get someone in that side, say similar to, I know I refer back to him because he's an absolute gun for Melbourne City, but someone that'll fill a spot like a Daniel Arzani, who will come in and just take control of it, your spot's done, isn't it? And then how do you get back in? You got to wait for this young kid to slip up, and if you get someone who's on fire, then you're in bigger trouble than what you started with, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah. So look, all I can say is hopefully they do reflect on not so much the injury that happened, but on the actual rules of the game.
AFL's gone down that path. They're worried about the injury that's happened and not the actual incident of play, and that's where I'm getting frustrated because the decisions aren't coming out
consistently.
Yeah.
Well,
so what is a rule now is a rule different next week to a rule different again.
I'm going to put my hand up here, changing the subject, going to AFL for a moment. I feel so sorry for Tom Hawkins. I'm a Carlton supporter, and if I was Tom Hawkins, I'd be very, very upset.
That goes back to touching the umpires. Now, Tom Hawkins, for those who don't know, copped a week's suspension about 2 weeks ago for touching an umpire.
And as an umpire, to watch that video about 5 times to see where he touched him. Yeah,
pushed his hand. There wasn't a lot in it, but as an umpire, I'm sacrilege. You can't touch me. That them's the rule. It's in the rule book. It's black and white. For the Curnow brothers from Carlton to get off, I thought that was absolutely outrageous, and I was sitting there going, Tom Hawkins, you have every right to just walk out in a couple of weeks' time when you play Carlton and just knock the both of them.
And as a Carlton supporter, I would say that was terrible.
But I'm so glad the AFL appealed it, and at least one of them got suspended. The other one I'm still not happy about. But so Stephen May from Gold Coast is probably the only one who had a case to answer for, where he was trying to explain what had happened, whereas 2 Curnow brothers blatantly pushed the umpire.
Well, and one was a full-on push to the chest. So I was like...
you can't touch him. I'm watching it going, you didn't learn from your brother's mistake.
And going now back to football, I remember my grandfather used to be a referee, and he made a call, and someone went up and tapped him on the face and goes, not hard, just tapped him and goes, come on, Rocky.
No way.
And for that he got a life suspension.
Life. Wow. See, I don't know. Life's harsh, isn't it? But you can't touch the umpire. That's what it comes down to. Here's one for you. I have to ask now. I went up to, I can't think what the Wodonga League's called. I went to a Wodonga League soccer match last season, season before. And they had a club umpire who's also a...
No, I already know what you're going to say.
You know the one I'm talking about? He paid a yellow card, and then the Wodonga coach went, or the Albury coach went absolutely AWOL. Can you seriously pay yellow cards in the twos? Because this bloke went AWOL and he reckons you couldn't pay him. But I thought, what's the point of raising the card or having cards at all for a twos match if you're not going to follow through with it?
You can play the cards.
You can play the cards.
The referee can play the cards. It doesn't matter if it is a club person or if it's a referee. If they were to be issued a red card, that could be appealed.
Yeah, so
does that make sense?
It makes sense. I can understand where you're coming from.
The one thing people don't understand is linesmen who are club linesmen can only call throw-ins and offside.
Basic, yeah. So that's fair enough. I had no issue with that. And the main referee had complete control, and this Albury coach just went absolutely bananas off chop. So then the referee give him a red card and pretty much send him to the stands, and that's exactly what he should have got because he was carrying on like a peanut. But
before that, that's where you need your club officials to come in and calm him down.
Well, they tried that, but this bloke just went, choppo.
Yeah, there you go.
An interesting wrap for football for the week.
That's it.
No, thank you very much.